So this highlights the importance of renewable energy in confronting climate change, calamities, and other crises, and to forge a more sustainable development path going forward.
If we simply improve the technology without renewing ourselves and reorienting our unexamined behavior, we will miss the opportunity for genuine recovery and renewal.
If there is one strategic opportunity that we can derive out of this situation, it is the pivot to promoting energy efficiency and conservation measures.
And for all these political quakes coming due by large to the shift in RE, the stablest point must come from the movements who have been pushing it for RE for the longest time.
How RE can play a role in our recovery programs, as more than I think more than 100 states, corporate movers, banks that have already announced they will no longer finance coal. But how do we make sure that those funds that they have said they will withhold from coal will now go to renewable energy projects? We want that shift. It's not enough that they don't finance coal. We need the funds to move to financing RE.
Up to 2050, and that shows coal starting to decline in terms of its share in the generation mix, starting in 2036, and then an expansion of natural gas, and then VRE, most especially solar, utility scale solar.
In Mindanao, we still have our crown jewels, Agus Pulang Head Power Complex, dependable capacity of more than 1,000 megawatts, still owned by the government, being opposed for privatization, and therefore a source of cheaper electricity for many of our communities in Mindanao.
Ito yung context ng ating study. Nag-combine na itong lahat ng crisis natin. So prior to the pandemic, meron tayong climate crisis at economic crisis natin. So the jobs crisis are merely the results of the combined two crises.
We hope that this will be a start of a jump off to greater research, which is for the payment for ecosystem services.
Poverty, which has long been ignored. In Mindanao, for example, ARM is really way behind when it comes to the availability of electricity in the home. Many of the areas and households that still do not enjoy electricity will be found in poor areas, not just in Mindanao, of course, but also in other poor regions of the Philippines.
Our next project is a 900 kilowatt wind diesel hybrid power plant. Again, this is the project of the Romblon Electric Cooperative Incorporated. And again, this is also the first in the SPAG area, or in the isolated grid. It is located in the island municipality of Romblon in the barangays of Agnay, Lonos, and Bagakay.
So a renewable energy cannot be, maybe in some circumstances, an appropriate technology for that community. So it's good to look at that perspective, that it is not just an energy problem, it's not just an engineering problem, it is also a social, it has very much a social element in it.
land bank to take part in promoting renewable energy as now the imperative norm in moving forward to protect our planet from further environmental degradation and from the continuing destruction of lives and properties by the adverse impact of the climate change unless we move and act right now.
RE technologies are already in its maturity, but it's not about technology, no? It's really about stakeholder and community involvement. How do we engage both the public and private sector to ensure success? It's not about technology, but about innovative business and finance models.
Education is an investment in society's development and improvement of people's living conditions. Education and capacity building are important investment to increase involvement of stakeholders and realize broader deployment of renewable energy.
The enlistment will start in March of 2021. We are hoping that by then we will already have put in place our registration procedures, and the courses will already be available online so students can.
The closing of the third Congress, RE Congress, is actually, that means it's an opening to new ideas and perspective shared by our resource person from a 2-day of deep dive sessions and iCREATE presentation, culminating with today's plenary session. The buzzwords are imperative, just energy transition, inclusive recovery. So for the sake of our planet, people, and of course, our economic future, it is really time to take this buzzword by heart. So it calls for action. So imperative, just transition, and inclusive recovery. So again, thank you. See you all on the next year's RE Congress. Stay safe, everyone, and good night. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
And also, RE, aside from electrification, it results to other positive outcomes. So for example, in our case, the Dumagat communities that benefited from the renewable energy intervention.
For those rain-fed area, wherein they're only dependent on rain. And so as long as they have the good water source, this is one of the solutions that you could provide for the farmers, even for small farmers. So currently, most of these programs.
How do we do local energy planning for, let's say, even a city, not just necessarily the province, that is tied to the grid? So that is where this current work that we're having now, which is called Financing and Integrating Renewable Energy in the City of Butuan, or we call it FINRE for short, FINRE BXU.
Because of technology, ngayon lang natin makita na some sources of renewable energy can be miniaturized. For example, solar. You can put up a small solar farm on top of your roof. But you cannot do that for hydro. Okay? Kaya because of the
most of the presentation or most of our colleagues are focusing on electrification. Small scale, medium scale, and large scale of electrification. But if you look here, the industry is hungry for energy.
In responding to the growing urbanization, which is in one part results in negative effect to energy security, air pollution, and climate change, there are a lot of international policies advocating on utilizing renewable energy. So in ASEAN, renewable energy presents a huge potential in the region with around 3.6 to 5.3 kilowatt hour per meter squared per day.
The organization, of course, the government is here, academic institutions and the like.
So one of the things that we want to look at is the health, education, income, and environment, because these four aspects is one of those things that has great effect in terms of microhydro or any other renewable energy system.
Was 3D printed and has successfully displayed real color with highly tunable properties in that case. And it was also demonstrated that the 3D scanning technology played an important role in conformal printing. So what is conformal printing? It means that to print on different surface topologies.
Encourage them to support the renewable energy program of IRISIN. Local stakeholders, conducting kami ng mga consultations, especially sa mga cooperatives, kasi ito yung target namin na unang magiging parang takers ng renewable energy.
This is actually democratizing the power industry, which means that all the members will now become owners of the power generating plant. And as these communities increase and the solar setup also increases, then we can form.
So what we did is that we filtered areas with no constraints, and in this slide, these are the areas with no shaded parts, and arranged them based on which locations were receiving the highest wind speed. And then we could look at the colors in the legend box to guide us through that.
Ito medyo mababa yung temperature niya, less than 30 degrees. Maligam-gam lang talaga. But the outflow is very large. So baka pwede dito ang hydrokinetic in-stream turbine na magamit. Then the latest one in the exploration is the Mainit Spring in Barangay Mapaso.
And the environmental harm is very minimal for the vertical because the blades won't harm the birds. At the same time, the noise produced by vertical is very low compared to horizontal. And the installation, since the vertical is small, it's easier to install it and maintain it.
Our member consumer owners is about 29,756, and we achieve an electrification level of 104%. Our peak demand is 5,120 kilowatt and an energy purchase for 2019 of 25,163,154 kilowatt hours.
Solar energy will be used as the power source of the fishing boat. With this, a solar charging station is also proposed, wherein the photovoltaic modules will be mounted on the rooftops of the facilities and warehouses near the fishing port, instead of having them directly installed on the fishing boat as the one in our references that was mentioned earlier. This is to ensure that the safety of the fishermen.
People in Sama will be very interested, particularly when we finally get over COVID and they will be opening up again to having visitors. They would want to be able to have their own energy, and that energy could become, if we can get a process OTEC working out at Samala.
So finally, shown here is the block diagram of the new optimization methodology applied to tidal turbine blade design that we would like to introduce. One key feature about this methodology is its robustness, as it can be applied to any site conditions of interest.
Its advantage lies on its mobility, wherein you can transport hydrogen to places hit by calamities or typhoons, and hydrogen can power vital services, immediate services.
Manage the use of the depleting and the finite resources that we have. For a sound policy, there is a need to consider and incorporate solar power technology in the disaster preparedness and mitigation program and in protecting and preserving the environment.